Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's All Candidates meeting, or as we like to call it here, Policy and Pie, presented by the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture. My name is Davina Garner, and I'm the Vice President of the Federation. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, whether you're here in person, watching on Rogers TV, or catching the replay later on our social media page. Your participation highlights the critical importance of agriculture to our community and our future. Agriculture is the heart of tonight's discussions, and we are fortunate to have the candidates here to answer questions on issues that matter deeply to our farming community. To ensure everyone has a chance to participate, we've organized a process for handling questions. Here's how it works. If you have a question, please write it down. Our OCFA directors are here to assist you. They have paper and pencils available and will gladly collect your questions. Just raise your hand to signal one of them, and they'll take care of the rest. Once we have your questions, our review panel will consolidate similar questions and giving preference to agriculture questions first to ensure a smooth and efficient process. These questions will then be forwarded to our moderator, which will keep the debate focused and ensure a wide range of topics are covered. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening, Eddie Matthews. Eddie was the former general manager of Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce, radio broadcaster and program director for 40 years in London and Stratford. He's currently a board member with the Alzheimer's Society and Huron-Perth Healthcare Association. He's a former Business Leader Award winner from the Stratford Chamber of Commerce. He is a Queen's Diamond Jubilee recipient, and at 65, still playing goal for some area hockey teams, hoping to be picked up by the Leafs or Habs. Eddie, we're delighted to have you with us tonight. Thank you for guiding tonight's discussion, and also thank you for being here. So please join me in welcoming Eddie Matthews.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I feel bad for the people over here because you'll see my good side tonight, but we wanted to make sure everybody gets their questions, and I'm thrilled that you're here tonight. We've got a great crowd. I want to pay tribute to the candidates because I know how hard it is. It may only be a few months, but you're coming into probably the worst season when it comes to canvassing and meeting everybody as well. But I just want to say thank you for your time and your effort as well. I want to make sure that we get all the time in. We've got a lot of questions. I want to make sure that we get as much questions as possible, else you'll be going home to watch the Habs or the French language debate tonight, okay? So the issues that we're going to be looking at tonight. Oh, and I want to also thank Terry and the gang here too from the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture for hosting this event and shining a spotlight on the issues that really do matter most to our farming community. There's going to be a lot of talk about agri-food, tariffs, of course, land use, everything from high-speed rail and lots more as well too. But it's really nice to be a part of an event where we can hear directly from the candidates and about their vision for agriculture and the broader future for our community. Candidate participation, basically, we want to hear what the candidates have to say tonight. All the candidates were invited to attend. Please know that every effort was made to include all the voices in this debate. Prior to the start of tonight's event, each candidate drew lots, basically to determine the order in which they were going to be speaking. The same order is going to be reflected, how they're seated up on stage. So we'll be starting with the Liberal first, okay? And we'll give everybody 3 minutes. We're going to be a little liberal on, if I can use that, on our timing this evening, just because we want to give everybody about a minute and a half. We really want to keep you to that, but we do want you to finish your statement because I know how difficult it can be to get your statements out in that amount of time too. Each candidate will start. We'll have 3 minutes for their opening remarks in speaking order, and as mentioned, determined by the lots of how it was conducted earlier on. And once again, we've got the guys in the back that if you need to ask a question, raise your hand, leave it up for a few minutes so they know where you are, and they'll come and get some questions from you, okay? As you see right here. Here's a good example right here. That's all we need. So we're going to be starting at this end, and we'll give everybody 3 minutes. Liberal Party, David Hilder.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight, and thank you for the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture for hosting our debate this evening. I'm David Hilderly. I'm the Liberal candidate for Oxford, and I'm glad to be here tonight to share our thoughts on the campaign. If you don't know me, I have lived here almost all of my life, except for 2 years when I taught in London. I was an educator for 34 years, and I'm currently a realtor in Oxford County. My wife, Patrice, worked for the city of Woodstock for 45 years, and together we raised a great family here in Oxford County, and we want to see the same kind of life for our young families and seniors as the time progresses over the next 4 years. I've learned the values of hard work and advocating for my community. Since chairing the Woodstock division of the 2001 Canada Games, I was bitten by the volunteer bug. And since that time, I have dedicated my time and energy and leadership to many causes in Oxford County. As chair of the Golden Gala, over the course of 15 years, we were able to raise in excess of $1.5 million for various charities in our community.
15 seconds.
And, excuse me.
12 seconds. Oh, a minute. Okay, sorry. My apologies. I'm still getting used to
A little more time, Eddie?
Yes.
Okay,
From the top.
All right. What I wanted to try and demonstrate to you is that my commitment to the community is very, very important. I have made sure that I've worked and served on several boards and charities, and I want to continue to be the representative for Oxford County in Ottawa. I want to make sure that we have a strong voice in Ottawa, one that knows the county very thoroughly, and make it our concern to stand up for Oxford in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. My apologies, too. And now from the Christian Heritage Party, Jacob Watson.
Hey, good evening. I ditto the thanks that Dave gave. My name is Jacob Watson. I'm 31 years old, and I've 95% of my life I've lived in Oxford County. I've been married for 5.5 years to my beautiful wife, Jenna, and I'm currently working at Stubby's Precast as a forklift operator. My dad and my grandfather have experience owning and operating a small farm. My first job in grade 8 was actually working at a local dairy farm not too far from here. I'm relatively interested in agriculture, and I'm excited to study and learn more about this mainstay of Canadian economy. One thing that is simple for me to understand is a nation that cannot feed itself cannot survive. So there is no more important task than raising food. Historically, the majority of Canada's farms have been family-operated businesses, some of them very small and some of them very large. That is why the CHP supports the institution of the family farm, both as the source of much-needed food, a source of income for many Canadians, and an incredible training ground for young Canadians to learn work ethic and to develop an understanding of God's miraculous design for growth, seasonal cycles, and the reward of hard work. Agriculture must be protected and encouraged. As a CHP MP, I want to prioritize and hold biannual town halls with our farmers to stay connected and make sure you are being heard. Because what I've been hearing is the government needs to stop overreaching and stop with the restrictions. We need to unregulate. We need to let farmers farm. A lot of farmers, a local farmer just told me the other day, that farmers should be the heart of ag policy and not bureaucrats. The CHP would strive for level playing fields in agricultural trade within our own nation and the restriction of farmland owned by large corporations. Canada being a major export country, we want to be able to compete fairly in the global and world markets. Canadian farmers, we want you to be able to move quickly into areas of opportunity. With Oxford County having nearly 2,000 farms and under 500,000 acres of farmland, I know how important it is that those in our ag sector have a strong advocate, especially in this season with all the global uncertainty. Last time I checked, we are Ontario's second highest pork producer. We're known as the dairy capital, producing around 286 million liters of milk annually and having 91% of our ag land considered to be class 1 to 3 soil. So what I'm saying is we got to keep our crop gain A game. The need for strong advocation speaks for itself, which presents the unique position held by the CHP in this election as forming a seat of opposition and advocacy to hold Ottawa and the parties that currently fill the seats accountable and ensuring that Oxford voice is heard. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. You're right on a roll there. And now from the NDP, Matthew Chambers.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture for organizing tonight's All Candidates meeting. My name is Matthew Chambers. Some of you may remember me as I had the privilege to serve as the NDP's candidate in both the 2019 and 2021 elections. So we will see if the old saying, third time's the charm, holds any truth for me. I suppose one of the biggest reasons why I decided to put my name forward again in this election would be out of a desire to serve the community. Public service has always been a part of my life from a young age, or a younger age, I will say. And having spent 100% of my life in Oxford County, I have engaged with many different community organizations within our riding. In Ingersoll, I am a regular volunteer at Stitch Supper Club. Here in Zora Township, I am a volunteer and member of the Zora Caledonian Society, and I teach karate in Tempsford, Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Tempsford Arena, always accepting new members. Anytime. And when I say I'd like to engage with the community and serve our community, I mean all year round, 365 days. Not just for a 5-week campaign. I'm not a 5-week candidate. I don't show up for 35 or 40 days for the period of a campaign. I am here in our communities in good times and in bad, regardless of whether or not my party is doing well in the polls, although that would be nice to experience once. Regardless of the popularity of my leader, and regardless of any optics on polling. I am here in Oxford no matter what. You will not find any gaps on my various social media platforms between election campaigns or between by-election campaigns, whether I'm the candidate or not. So I look forward to this discussion this evening, and I look forward to engaging with our community throughout the rest of the campaign. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matthew. And from the Conservatives, Arpan Khanna.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Arpan Khanna. I am the Conservative candidate seeking re-election here in Oxford County. I want to first off start by thanking the OCFA and to all the farmers here today who took time out. I know we're getting ready for the season to be here for a great discussion on what our vision is for farmers, not only here in Oxford County, but across Canada. As many of you know, I come from humble beginnings, a proud son of immigrants who came in the late 70s, early 80s. I was born in Canada to a working class family, not much in our pockets, just a dream for a better life. And back then, you could work hard. You could, put the time in, the effort in, and earn an honest living, buy a decent home, go on a vacation once in a while, raise your family with your own values. But sadly, we're not seeing that anymore. And as your MP for the last few years, I've had the chance to visit many of your farms. We've had great barn discussions. I've been to your shop floors. I've been to your factories. We've had coffee. We have had honest, open dialogue. And the one thing I'm always reminded of is that Canadians are working harder and harder, but barely getting by. My office has helped thousands of Oxford residents with their issues. We have done as much as we can to serve our great community. But I've also been a strong local voice in Ottawa as well. I've taken your issues that I've heard firsthand and fought for them every single day against this liberal radical regime that is controlling our country. I have stood up day in and day out and fought for our values and for Oxford's way of life. And that is what I'm proud of, because we need strong leadership in Ottawa. Oxford is such a great community with so much potential. The best farmers in the world, the best auto sector. We have the transportation logistical hub here in Oxford County with the 401 and the 403. So for us, it is about fighting for our fair share of funding and for support. But we haven't seen that in the last 10 years. We have skyrocketing crime. We have a broken immigration system. We have a border problem that we're all seeing right now, a drug crisis. Homelessness encampments are popping up right across our communities, a food insecurity crisis. Who else could fix this other than our great farmers here in Oxford County? And I'm proud to be part of a Conservative team that has stood by our farmers every step of the way. We brought in Bill 234 to exempt carbon tax on our farmers so your input costs go down. We brought in Bill C-275, a biosecurity bill to protect our farmers and your livestock. We brought in various bills like 280 to protect our producers of vegetables and fruits so that way you have some stability back when you're farming. So I look forward to having a great debate and sharing a vision of our Canada First plan. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder too, if we could just make sure all the cell phones are turned off. I know it's going to be getting in the way if we have some noise in the background as well. If we can hear from our independent, Akshay Vardhan, for 3 minutes, sir.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Akshay Vardhan, and I'm proud to be running as an independent candidate for Oxford. I live in Embro in the heart of Zora Township with my wife Geetika. Over the years, I've had the privilege of volunteering at community staples like the Highland Games and Tractor Pull, events that have deepened my appreciation for our rural spirit and the hardworking people who make Oxford what it is. Professionally, I bring over a decade of experience in law, finance, and real estate. As a licensed lawyer here in Ontario, I've always focused on making legal services more efficient, accessible, and cost-effective, especially through smart use of technology. I'm passionate about applying the same practical, solution-driven mindset to politics. I choose to run as an independent because I believe our region needs a voice that puts people over parties, a representative who is free to advocate for the local needs without being handcuffed by national party agendas. And there's no better example of why that matters than right here in Oxford's agricultural sector. Oxford County is the dairy capital of Canada. Supply management isn't just a policy, it's stability for farm families, food security for Canadians, and a system that works. Yet time and again, it's been placed under pressure during international trade negotiations. That needs to stop now. The threat from America market is real, and our farmers are right to be concerned. As your MP, I will stand firmly to protect the supply management and ensure no trade deal compromises the foundation our farmers have built over generations. Another urgent concern is the ongoing loss of farmland. We are watching some of Ontario's best agricultural land disappear under urban sprawl and industrial expansion. Once it's gone for the good. I will fight for stronger protections for farmland, smarter land use planning, and incentives to keep land in agriculture, not asphalt. Another one of my primary concerns is the impact of federal policies on our local farmers. For instance, the carbon tax has placed an undue burden on agriculture producers. I support Ontario Federation of Agriculture's call to permanently abolish the carbon tax from fuels used in agricultural production, such as grain drying and barn heating. Our farmers need practical solutions that recognize the realities of agricultural operations. At the heart of all this is a simple principle: no farmers, no food on the table. Yet too often, they are left out of the consultations. That needs to change. I'm here to listen, to learn, and to act. Free from party politics and fully committed to Oxford's future. Together, let's protect what matters most: our farms, our families, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, from the United Party of Canada, Melanie Van Prook.
Thank you. My name is Melanie Fulcom of Van Bruges. Many of you may know me previously as a resident that was born and raised in Oxford County. I had a business many of you may know as Body Kinetics. And I want to say that I'm thankful that my grandparents decided to immigrate to Canada. They love the Canadians in the Netherlands, and they decided to come over and take their hand at the plow. And because of them, I'm here today. And I do want to say, as a social conservative, there are many concerns that I want to address. One, what I would say would be when it comes to supply management. I concur what many have said when it comes to food supply and making sure there's stability. That is one of the single most important things. When it comes to the ag sector, you bring in 80 billion when it comes to the amount that you're bringing in economically, and 26 billion is being exported. That is something that we need to protect and defend. And when it comes to the 2030 agenda and the overreach when it comes to the federal government, obviously some of those issues are more municipal and provincial, but that is something that we would see an end to. I also would like to address, more importantly, the moral fabric. As a social conservative, when it comes to the moral fabric of our nation, many of you are the salt and the light of this generation, and I see that mostly in agricultural communities, which I am proud to be a part of. I have 3 farmers in my family. But when it comes to the social agenda that we're seeing and the moral fabric of the Judeo-Christian principles that this nation was founded on, even here in this nation, in this community, I would like to say that the sanctity of life is at stake. When it comes to abortion, there are absolutely no laws. When it comes to conception to natural death, there is absolutely nothing that says that it's right for somebody who's mentally ill not to get the proper health care that they need, rather than to predetermine that assisted suicide might be a good alternative. When it comes to the CPC, Bill C4 has actually decided that parents do not have the right to make a sovereign decision over their own minor who has gender dysphoria, and instead there is an incarceration of 5 years. There's something wrong with a nation when we are not addressing the social fabric that this nation has been founded on. And when it comes to the peacemakers who saw to it that our peaceful protests were not allowed to be happening simply because our charters of rights and freedoms were at stake, we're seeing even them just less than 24 hours ago, the possibility of being criminalized and put in jail. When we see the moral fabric of our nation change, we can talk all we want about economy, but what are we passing on to our future generation? One of the things I value the most when I look at the farming community, they're talking about succession and planning of who's going to own the farm and who's going to have the second farm and how are we going to do this when it comes to the farming community. And so I would like to say that tonight there are many who have been a silent majority, and tonight I am standing up for those who have been silenced. I want to be your voice.
Thanks, Melody. Those are the opening remarks, and we're going to come to the question period of this right now. And I've got a nice stack of questions here. And once again, if you just want to raise your hand, like this gentleman's doing, then we'll make sure that we get the questions vetted and so forth. Each question will be answered by all the candidates, and I'm going to move down the line as well. And just because we've got 6 candidates, folks, if you can just wave at me, if you want to respond to whoever's speaking at the time, wave at me, and then I'll make sure I get you in, just so we're not stepping on everybody's toes in that. We'll keep the process fair like that. Afterwards, the question will be rotated with subsequent questions, starting with the next candidate in order. So we'll do equal time for everybody. Each candidate will get about a minute and a half or so, and we'll let you know about the time aspect of that. First question, and we'll start with David, and then we'll move down the line. You've got a minute and a half, 2 minutes to answer this one, and then we'll open it up to the floor. What are the 3 most important contributions agriculture makes to the Canadian economy and to the Canadian society? David, you've got a minute and a half.
So the 3 most important things that agriculture and farming contribute to?
Yes, to the Canadian economy and
to the Canadian economy. Well, first of all, we know the Canadian farmers are very hardworking people who provide for us in terms of agricultural food. And what we really need to understand is, as an economy, particularly here in Oxford County, but as an economy, agricultural is huge for our Canadian farmers. So that is probably the one of the most significant impacts is the financial, economic production that happens here in Canada. Secondly, it's food sustainability is very, very important. And without the farmers, we know we would not have the wealth and breadth of product that's available to us as we go to our grocery stores. I think third thing is the community fiber that the agricultural community provides in terms of their values and their contributions, not only on the land, but in their communities and in their towns. So those would be the three things that I would identify.
Okay. We'll go down the line here. And Jacob, did you want to handle this question as well?
Well, there's lots of valuable things that you guys, agriculture contributes to our economy. The top three from interacting with some of the farmers that we have locally, I would say is pork, dairy, and wheat. Thank you.
Okay. Matthew, do you want to answer this question? What are the three most important contributions agriculture makes to the Canadian economy and to the Canadian society?
Well, good Canadian food is at the heart of our homes, our communities, and our economy, especially here in Oxford County, when our agriculture sector makes up probably more than 50% of our economy. We do have a growing automotive industry, of course, and manufacturing, but I would say that we are still a majority agricultural riding. So having the agriculture sector here is an absolute essential to our economy and to growing our communities. And the majority of our farms here in Oxford County and in Southern Ontario are still family-owned farms that have been in families for generations upon generations. And it is thanks to policies like our supply management system that continues to allow that to happen without being overridden and blown out of the water by larger corporate farms, as we've seen in the States, in upstate New York and Wisconsin, who can't compete with a large operation that has hundreds of thousands of heads of cattle, et cetera, massive industrial egg producers and stuff like that. So we really need to protect our local family farms, and that will also protect our economy here in Oxford, I think.
Good. Arpan from the Conservatives.
Absolutely. Agriculture is,
There we go. I think we're on now.
agriculture is not only just the backbone of our economy, it is, there we go. Agriculture is not just the backbone of our economy, but it is the heart of our communities. With all my discussions and meetings with our farmers, I've spent a lot of time with them on their fields, in their barns, having these honest, open conversations. Number one is that they feed our families. Without our farmers, there is no food, not just here in Canada, but across the world. And our farmers take pride in that. They take pride in the work they do, that the food they produce is healthy, nutritious, it has everything we need to survive. And more than ever, we have to support them now so we can make more, grow more, produce more, and harvest here in Canada. Number two, I think on the economic side, there's no doubt that our farmers are contributing to our economy in various ways. You know, whether it's our dairy milk producers, we are the dairy capital of Canada. You know, $20 billion into our economy, into our GDP. Our other farmers, our agritourism industries, our processors, different levels of farming and agriculture have been supporting our economy. That is, they're paying taxes, sadly too much taxes, and are supporting our economic fundamental basics. But also they have done a lot for our communities and for the next generation. They're providing leadership. If you look at the 4-H programs, if you look at the various fairs, the Tilsonburg Fair, the Tavistock Fall Fair, our farmers are stepping up and supporting our communities, especially when during a time of need. If someone needs support, they have always stepped up. And so I think those three are the major contributions. And every single day and in every single way, I'll keep fighting for them so they keep on doing just that. Thank you.
From our independent, actually, the three top things that you can think of.
Sure. First and foremost, as everyone has already attested to it, they give us food. The dairy industry in Oxford is the dairy capital of Ontario. I have interacted with a lot of dairy farmers. They wake up at 3 a.m. for us just to milk cows. So they contribute, like, they lose their sleep for us. So food is first and foremost that they give to us. The second one is employment. As per the recent stats, there are 9,700 employees that the farms are employing. It's a big source of employment, and this needs to continue, and the farms need to grow, because that's how the society will progress. The third thing that I could think of is their contribution to the GDP, which is $2,629 million. That's a big number that the farms of Ontario provide. So we need to grow the farms. As per the recent stats, the farmland is on a decline. We are declining from the last census to this census by about 2.7% already. So it's a wake-up call for everyone. All these contributions that the farmers have given for the past generations, they can't go in vain, and we need to wake up now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Melanie, you've got a minute and a half.
Farmers feed cities, and if one of you have one of those stickers, mine is wearing out. But I would like to say that when it comes to supply management, if you ask any other nation, we are the envy of every other nation. And the reason for that is because when it comes to agriculture and the supply management, it has given us economical stability. As I said before, it's a $50 billion sector that brings in lots of money, but it also hires 20,000 migrant workers, something that is very important for other countries. When it comes to generational planning, as I said before, they're holding on to the land and they're passing it on from one to the next. So there's stability in job force. There is also, when it comes to the supply management, because our farmers are doing well, I would say perfect at all times, but because they're doing well, they're actually building and they're continuing to grow. So they're contributing to all the rest of the markets when it comes to construction, engineering, etc. So those would be, I would say, probably some of the most important things. And one last thing I would like to say is they're pioneers when it comes to environmental stewardship. And I'd like to just say that that's one of the largest contributing factors, I would say, for society to teach us.
If you've eaten today, thank a farmer. Absolutely. Absolutely. Second question, and we'll start with Jacob. What will you or your party do to offset the impact of tariffs and trade disruptions on Canadian farmers and our food supply? You've got a minute and a half.
So we would 100% stand behind protecting supply management. I would also be looking into different avenues. So with I know there's talk with the tariffs in China and on our pork. I'd be looking into different avenues or advocating for getting more meat processing plants or meat packers in our area. That's a huge industry that we have in Oxford County. And be looking into ways that government, so we have a framework between federal and provincial framework, but I would also be wondering if we can set up something between federal, provincial, and municipalities so we can see what we can do to help out with grants, plants, and yes, that is all. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll go down, and Matthew, you've got a minute and a half to respond.
Yeah. So
And get up close to that microphone too, please.
so yeah, we know that our supply management system is one of the points that Donald Trump has attacked and has given as a reason for slapping tariffs on Canada. So the NDP wants to protect our supply management and through consumer trade negotiations, diversify markets of the agriculture exports, reduce reliance on the United States, introduce payment protection programs for producers and growers to take immediate steps to restore protection for growers selling in the United States in case there's any impact from the tariffs, which of course we know there will be some sort of impact. We hope it doesn't last long, but with the unpredictability and sheer insanity that comes out of the White House these days, who can say? So one other point, we would be creating a pan-Canadian food strategy that will make us leaders in sustainable food production, as well as invest in rural communities to make sure that farmers have the supports that they need to continue providing for Canadians.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Arpan, your assessment of the tariffs that we're going to be seeing and have seen.
Look, it's unfortunate that Donald Trump is putting some of these unjustified tariffs on our farmers and threatening us. here's the bottom line. We will not negotiate any of our quota away when it comes to supply management with the U.S. Our party stands firm against that. We will work to diversify our trade relations with other countries to get our produce and goods across the world. Canada is a home of the best farmers. We have so much potential when it comes to farming, and that needs to be exported across the world, not just to the U.S. Obviously, we share a strong relationship with the U.S. and we have to continue to build on that as well. But we have to start looking at other opportunities that do exist when it comes to that. But also processing. We've seen a massive shortage of processing plants, closures happening, where we should be making more, producing more right here in Canada. And that's because of the input costs have gone through the roof. A lot of the farmers are telling me that it costs more now to buy asparagus grown here in Oxford than it is to get it shipped 3,400 kilometers away from Mexico. So the competition, the red tape, the regulations that our farmers face, the hurdles that after 10 years of the Liberals, this overreach that has impacted their lives has made it difficult for them to compete. And a lot of them, sadly, are now saying that their kids don't want to take over the farms. So that is unacceptable. I think it's important for us to stand tall as a proud nation on all the success we have, all the potential we have, look to diversify, but also to make sure that we make farming competitive again, that the more you grow and harvest, the more you get rewarded for that.
Okay, thank you. Actually, your interpretation of how we are going to be handling the tariffs.
I think there is too much focus on the tariffs by the political parties. I would want to focus on Oxford itself, what we can do to strengthen ourselves. Because if we are strong, then of course we would be more resilient to all these tariffs that are out there. So for sure, the supply management needs to stay there. But I would advocate for more farms to be there, more farmland to be allocated and built, so that we can have our dairy farms and we can have other sorts of farming and sustainable sorts of farming out there, and we can produce more at the same time. And we can also be more resilient by not allowing the Americans to export to us and stopping the imports from them, basically. And we should stop using it as a bargaining chip, especially in our trade negotiations, because that's what's happening. A lot of the supply management is being used as a bargaining chip, wherein we give that away and then we take something else in return. So I would for sure support the supply management.
And Melanie, how would the United Party look at dealing with the tariffs?
So first of all, I would like to say once again, thank goodness for supply management. Otherwise, we would be paying what the Americans are, $11 for a dozen of eggs. One of the things that we would look at doing is getting rid of the carbon tax, taking that carbon tax and putting it back into the economy. That would be not just in agriculture, but many of the different sectors. We'd look at getting rid of a lot of the red tape when it comes to the agricultural sector provincially. And we would also look at alternate trade negotiations. And I think that we've managed to do that successfully so far with supply management and with a Canadian, US, Mexican trade agreement. And we would also find ways of using the resources that we do have in Ontario, not just in agricultural resources, but the other resources, opening those up and making them profitable for us economically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We'll direct this one to Matthew from the NDP. How does your party plan to increase?
I think you missed Dave.
Oh, sorry, David.
I'm still here, okay?
I'm just going through the lineup here. Sorry.
No, that's all
David.
good. It's all good, yeah. The first step would be to not have tariffs and have a prime minister who is able to negotiate and able to stand up to the President of the United States. We've already witnessed his strength in that regard. However, if the tariffs do continue, it's important for us to negotiate in the next deal to make sure these things are eliminated on agriculture. We need to support our farmers, and our Prime Minister has been very, very clear that if tariffs affect us, then the tariff money that we collect goes back in to support the workers, the farmers. We need to develop more markets for our product outside the United States in free trade zones, much like the Indo-Pacific zone, where we've already set up an office in Manila, for example. Food processing plants. we don't have enough of them locally, and we need to build more. We need to build Canadian, and that is another way that we can help the agri sector and defy the tariffs. Eliminating the interprovincial barriers so that trade can go back and forth with our agricultural products. And we just simply need to be more independent and build Canadian.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. Third question is for, and we'll start with Matthew on this one.
Ready.
There we go. How does your
Ready
party
now.
plan to increase domestic packaging and processing facilities for commercial grains and livestock, fruits and vegetables as well? How does your party plan to increase domestic packaging and processing facilities for commercial grains, livestock, fruits and vegetables?
Well, we need to establish clear food labeling and transparency rules with accompanying public education so Canadians feel confident that they're purchasing safe and healthy Canadian-produced foods. So setting up a proper labeling system for Canadians and for the food that is produced here in the country would be the best way, I think, going about doing that.
Okay, appreciate the answer on that one. We'll move on, and Arpan, if you wanted to comment on that.
If you look in the last 10 years under the Liberals, we have seen 20,000 new regulations added to our country. The red tape has skyrocketed, paralyzing any growth in our country. If you look at if you look at our growth record out of the G7, we're actually the lowest in the last 10 years because of the failed Liberal policies. We are the slowest to permit. You know, permitting for these facilities, getting things zoned is a problem. I see some of our local officials here today as well. We will work with our local municipalities and townships to ensure that we could attract that investment, that we make our environment for doing business competitive again. One of the policies we announced was the capital gains tax exemption. If you sell something here in Canada, make a profit and reinvest it back in Canada, there'll be no capital gains tax on that. So we have to create an environment where we attract investment, where we could create these opportunities, where we're not bogged down by red tape. But also, the Liberals brought in this stupid idea where they wanted to ban plastic. And so for when I met with our farmers on the produce side on vegetables, that was going to affect them negatively themselves, their businesses, the shelf life of our food, the transportation of our produce. So these are some of the policies that this Liberal out-of-touch government has brought forward that has hurt growth of our processing, growth of our farms here in Oxford County and across Canada. So let's create the environment for growth, and that starts with cutting some of the red tape the Liberals have brought on.
Wonderful. Thank you. And as an independent, Akshay, how would you handle this?
So I would say for the processing plants that for sure I would start by cutting the red tape. And being an independent, I do not have to report to any political parties or ask my political superiors of how it should be done. I can go to Ottawa directly, and I can work with my peers and ask them to cut the red tape and request them that Oxford needs to be prioritized because it is the dairy capital of Canada, and it is a significant player in the agricultural industry.
Yeah. Wonderful. Melanie?
In 1931, the Statute of Westminster actually gave provincial autonomy, and we were supposed to be allowed to form our own constitution when it came to some of these red tape things that we're talking about. That's probably the first place I would go to address simply reducing the red tape. And as far as for some of the other implications economically, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Yeah. Okay. No, honest answer on that one. David?
Please repeat the question for him.
Yeah, I certainly can. How does your party plan to increase domestic packaging and processing for the facilities for commercial grains, livestock, fruits, and vegetables?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, the Liberal plan is to support farmers by helping them invest in food processing plants and to help them with the packaging end of things. Our products are grains, for example. If we're not using it here in Canada, we need to find more markets for that. And certainly from talking to some of the farmers, it seems that the bulk of what we would have exported would have been to the States. So we do need to have a wider range of markets. And in terms of supporting the farmers in investing in their own farms for sustainability and for continue to be competitive. And that's part of what the Liberals want to do, is to make sure that farmers are supported in that regard.
Okay. Arpan, I know I want to get to the others first, and then we'll open it up for a little bit of debate. Jacob, I want to ask you the same question.
I don't have any party plan on that. So if whoever asked that question, if you'd want to come over to the table afterwards, and I can get you some more information. Thank you.
And we'll open it up for a little bit of debate. Arpan, I know you wanted to respond.
Yeah, I just want to also remind everyone that supply chain is also very important when it comes to processing. And in 2023, we've had one of the worst labor shortage stoppage problems all across Canada. We had, under the Liberals, our ports were on strike, our rail went on strike, and we had a challenge getting our goods to market. And that sets a signal to our folks that want to set up shop here in Canada. That can't happen. We lost $10 billion in that 1 year alone. And that is a problem we have. I know Mr. Hilderly's here today, and last time he was here in the same room, he was championing the carbon tax. Yeah. He was proud of the carbon tax, and his party voted 50 times against the carbon tax. And now all of a sudden they're switching tunes. So again, you're making it harder for them to do business in Canada. We got to take care of that.
Okay. And Arpan, we're going to start with you on this question. How will you ensure work to reduce interprovincial trade barriers so that agriculture can serve and grow potential markets right here in Canada?
I think Canada has to become its best trading partner. It's sad to see that with all the provincial trade barriers that exist, our economy is losing $200 billion every single year. We should be trading within ourselves. We have a great market from east to west, but these trade barriers that exist are stifling growth. And so part of the Conservative plan, our leader has talked about this quite extensively when it comes to diversifying our trade options, is to make sure the trucking laws change. Right now, each province has their own trucking laws from east to west. When a trucker hauls some of their products over, every province sets a new record. To get a doctor to work here in Canada or in Ontario, imagine someone from BC wanted to come here to Tillsonburg to help with the doctor shortage. They had to go through testing all over again. So these trade barriers that exist will go away. We've committed to that, and we would make sure that we increase that relationship with our provinces. We'll sit down with our premiers in consultation, and any profits that we make, any support we get from them for our GDP, for our growth, we'll incentivize those provinces and give that money back to them so they can keep on growing and keep on trading. There's no reason why we can't be trading within ourselves. We are our own best trading partners. Let's get that going.
Okay, good. Oxy, how would you handle this?
Sure. So I would like to start with the stat here. So as per statistics, 46% of the crop products that are cultivated go outside Oxford, and 71% of the animal products that are cultivated, they go outside Oxford. So where are these going? Are the farmers selling directly to the consumers? Only 11% of the total produce in Oxford is sold directly to the consumers. So we need to take down the middlemen for sure, because they are the ones who are blocking the trade, the interprovincial trade, in my opinion. We need to take them down. If we can take them down, we can sell directly to the consumer, be it in some other province or be it in some other city, because we have a lot of surplus and we need to utilize that well. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. And Melanie.
Can you please repeat?
Yes, I sure can. I just wanted to go there. I'm just keep jumping ahead of myself. How will you ensure work to reduce interprovincial trade barriers so that agriculture can serve and grow potential markets right here in Canada?
Breaking down the barrier between province.
There you go.
Breaking down the barriers between provinces and the trade agreements that they have there. Like I had addressed before, when it comes to the red tape, I would say that would probably be the other thing that we would like to address.
Yeah.
Equalization of payment is also a large consideration. I would like to address that as well when it comes to how farmers are actually being compensated for the trades that they have. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And David.
Yes, thank you. An easy one to answer, because our Prime Minister has already started the process. He has met with the premiers, and they have all agreed that the focus is to reduce those interprovincial barriers. It was nice to see Doug Ford announce today that Ontario has made agreements already with Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. So the process has started. It was facilitated by the Prime Minister, and he has made it very clear that he would like to have those barriers removed by Canada Day.
Okay, thank you, David. And Jacob?
The CHP, we see eye to eye as all the other candidates as well, and all the other parties as well, that we would work to remove any interprovincial trade barriers.
Okay, short and sweet, just like that. Where do you go?
Short and sweet.
Matthew?
That's a rare thing to see eye to eye with the CHP. It's all right, though. Make them laugh, right? No, the NDP also agrees that interprovincial trade barriers should be relieved. And it is a shame that it took a near national disaster for this to come up. It's something that should have been done a long time ago, I think. So the NDP will work with both federal government and the various provincial and territorial governments in order to get those barriers down, which will be good for not only the agriculture sector, but for small businesses as well.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. Question number 5. Actually, as united, as an independent rather, what would be your plan to help protect and support supply management, especially during this time of uncertainty with the United States?
So I've addressed this in my introduction as well. I'm for supply management and protecting our farmers. It's a priority for me. So in terms of imports from the U.S., we should not be importing any dairy products from the U.S. We are self-sufficient, and we should be utilizing. We have excess supply, as I just said in the last answer. We should be utilizing that. We should be exporting that within Canada itself. There should be interprovincial exports of the excess supply that Oxford has, and I am against any policy where our farmers are targeted, or if our borders are opened up to external agricultural products.
Wonderful. Thank you. Melanie?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure can. What is your plan to help protect and support supply management, especially during this time of uncertainty with the United States?
I believe I also did address that as well. Obviously, we would be protecting it, as well as we would look at ways of expanding, like we had said already, interprovincial trades within the country. And when it comes to the supply management, thank goodness that it is in place. When it comes to some of the imports that the U.S. has asked for, I believe that could actually be something that could be negotiated, whether or not we could actually take what they are wanting to bring in, and we could actually find different ways of rerouting that and making it to our benefit.
Good. Thank you. David, how would you handle this? How would the Liberals handle with protecting supply management?
Mr. Carney Prime Minister Carney has been very, very clear that supply management is a top priority for us to sustain, and it will not be on the negotiation table at all. Supply management is a very supportive program that was just introduced by the Liberals, and we have fully been in support of it over the course of time. Unfortunately, Mr. Harper's government was not as supportive, and we understand too that Conservatives are always trying to nickel away, and it doesn't make it a good situation. Supply management is there to support our farmers in dairy, eggs, and poultry, and it is a great system. And we will stand up for that system going forward.
Okay, thanks. Jacob, how would CHP handle this?
CHP is obviously for the protection of supply management. So the CHP will review existing market boards on a case-by-case basis to ensure they are still meeting the needs of the procedures they represent, as well as Canadian consumers. And where possible, we'd make provisions that should be made for small-scale independent producers to serve niche markets without undermining the quota system.
Okay, nice. And Matthew?
Look, as I've already said, supply management protects Canadians' farms and the Canadian economy, and it is important that we stand up for it and defend the system, but also to improve the system where it has fallen short or it has not been improved since it was first introduced. And there's always a lot of talk when there's trade negotiations coming up that supply management is off the table. But that's one thing. And then when the negotiations actually happen, all of a sudden supply management is back on the table again. We've seen it in the previous trade negotiations with the renegotiation of NAFTA, the USMCA, or CUSMA as we call it here, right? So there's something to be said about the policies that are being said to people's faces, and then it's something different when they actually get up on the negotiation stage.
Okay. And Arpan, how would the Conservatives handle this?
Look, I think unequivocally Conservatives stand with supply management. It's in our party's constitution. If you go to page 13, you'll see it. It's ratified by our members of our party. And when it comes to concessions, I think we got to stop that. If you look, as Matthew just mentioned, the last previous negotiation of CUSMA, the Liberals actually gave some of that quota away for powdered milk as well. And so we have to look at not just the dairy side, but eggs, chickens, to make sure that we have a fair trade, not just free trade, but fair trade that protects our existing system. And just on April 4th, there was a headline in the news. I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to read that. Mr. Carney said that he won't bring any laws to protect supply management. So that is shocking. So any future negotiations by a Conservative government will not have supply management on the table. We've been crystal clear on that, and we'll continue to stand with our farmers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. This question is directed to Melanie. Given that there are currently no practical, cost-effective alternatives to conventional fuels that farmers could use instead to dry grain, heat livestock barns, or other agricultural buildings, will you support permanently scrapping the carbon tax on fuels used in agricultural production?
Thank you for that question. You actually answered it already within the question. You couldn't have said it better myself. There is no alternative for drying out grain. And when it comes to the carbon tax that's being placed on that, it absolutely 100% has to go for two reasons. Number one, because there isn't an alternative. And number two, because that's part of our policy to
Good.
see the end of carbon tax.
Terrific. Thank you. David, we'll throw it to you and the Liberals.
Certainly, from talking to some of the grain farmers, I understand the restrictions and the source of concern regarding the carbon tax. On a personal basis, I think it's fair that that tax be eliminated for our farmers. The grain farmers don't have a lot of support, so let's make sure that we do it in the way that we can, and that is something that I would like to stand up for.
Okay. Jacob?
Yeah, the CHP is for getting rid of all carbon tax, period.
Done. Matthew, we'll throw it to you.
Yeah, the New Democrats support taking the financial pressures off of farmers who don't have any alternatives to propane and other natural gases to run their grain silos and heat their livestock buildings as well. That's why the NDP supported Bill C-234 in the House of Commons at all its stages and did not support the amendments that were made by the Senate.
Okay. How would the Conservatives handle this, Arpan?
Look, I think when we face a major food insecurity crisis in our country, we have to lower the input costs that are affecting our farmers. The farmers that are drying their grains, running their operations, heating their barns are being affected by the carbon tax. I've seen many of your bills, and it's sometimes almost 40 to 50% of your energy bill that is impacting your input costs. So we have made it very clear, a Conservative party, we actually brought a bill forward in Parliament, Bill 234, which had the support of almost every single party except for one, the Liberals. They voted against it. Not just that bill once, but 50 times the Liberals have voted against axing the carbon tax. Mr. Carney has now said that he's pausing the carbon tax on consumers, but not on industry. That affects our farmers again. Only the Conservatives will axe the tax for everyone, once and for all, for good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you on that. Next question. We're at the top of the batting order again, David. We'll start with you and the Liberals. Oh, I'm sorry, Ash. I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. So yeah, as I stated in my introduction, I'm against the carbon tax. Just to bring your attention, a point of a tax is firstly for the government to make money. The second one is to curtail that particular spending. So putting tax in agriculture, what's the government trying to do here? So I am against the carbon tax and I'm in favor of Bill C-234.
Okay, nicely put. David, the next question is for you. What actions will you or your party take to help address the labor gap in agriculture and ensure the sector has steady access to a reliable workforce? What actions will the Liberals take, your party take, to help address the labor gap in agriculture and ensure the sector has a steady access to a reliable workforce?
Thank you for that question. I believe that's one of the questions that the Federation of Agriculture had asked all of the politicians. One of the things that they were concerned about was the fact that young people are not choosing agribusiness or agriculture as a career. What I would like to just talk about just quickly is an experience that I had on Friday of last week, where I went to Huron Park Secondary School to see the technical programs that were being run to actually encourage more young people to get into the trades. It was a fascinating day, a very positive day. And this has been a program now for about 3 years that they have run. And the results are quite compelling. They are telling me that those trade classes are now over subscribed. And so it's a matter, I think, of encouraging our young people to look at the careers of agriculture and to encourage them in perhaps the same manner. If we're talking about workers in terms of vegetables and fruit, I think it's very important for the government to support and allow or make it easy for us to have good working folks that perhaps are immigrant workers.
Yeah, very good. Jacob.
As of right now, I don't have a party plan for this, so I'd have to get back to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, good enough. Matthew?
Well, there needs to be a response facing young people and new farmers through supporting succession planning. Let us in that word. And also, there's something to be said for providing more security and benefits for temporary foreign workers who come in, sometimes generation after generation, working on our family farms and making sure that they continue to serve Canadians. Right now, there are instances where sometimes people who come here may be out without any sort of medical care. So there needs to be work done on providing more supports for temporary foreign workers who are coming here to work on our farms as well. For any other information, I'd be happy to speak to people over at my table
Very well.
afterwards.
And once again, well, the candidates will be sticking around afterwards. So please, if there's something...
pie. Of course we're going to be sticking around.
That's why we came, right? Other than, yeah. Arpin?
I came for the pie as well, but still, I think it's important for our farmers to have the labor needs met. I know a lot of farmers that are always looking for help, and whether it's providing leadership for the next generation. Like I said, the 4-H program helped set that up quite a bit. Sadly, the Liberal government have cut funding for that, but also looking at our immigration system to make sure that the needs are being met. We have 2 great streams when it comes to the seasonal and agriculture workers. I think it's important we continue to refine that program so farmers could provide consultation, so we could reduce some of the red tape that does exist. It does get costly sometimes for our farmers and all the different hurdles they have to jump to make sure that they could bring good, talented labor force here to our country to provide the services they need. But also, I've noticed a lot of our farmers are also using technology more and more these days as well. So the need for labor is starting to die down in some of these farm areas, which is good to see. But I think it's important for us to ensure that even in our schooling system, like as Dave mentioned, there's a STEM camp that the provinces are introducing. I think it's important for our provinces to start looking at ways to support the agriculture side of things as well. Back when I was growing up, we had a field trip to the farm, the local farm, and we saw what was going on and we had a tour. A lot of schools don't do that anymore. So I think it's important to incite that excitement from a young age. And these are good quality jobs that we so desperately need in Canada. So whatever we can to support our farmers.
Wonderful. Thanks. We're going to come to you, Matthew, but I want to get Akshay in first.
Sure. So In my opinion, we already have the workers in Oxford County, just that they do not prefer to work in the agriculture sector. And why is that? Because it's a lot of hard work and then they don't get incentivized. So in my opinion, the solution is really simple. The farmers need to be more incentivized. They need to be provided more subsidy. And in turn, they would employ more people. They would produce more as well. So that gap would automatically reduce. The young people, because if anyone works, they work for money. So if there is hard work, they need to be compensated well compared to maybe working at a restaurant or maybe working at a petrol station, gas station. So anyone who wants to work at a farm needs to be incentivized more than any other worker, in my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hear from Melanie, and then we'll come to Matthew.
As stated before, we talked about the red tape provincially, and that's something that we would look at addressing so that there's not the federal overreach when it comes to immigration, like as far as for migrant workers. But one thing I would like to say as well is when it comes to immigration itself, we would make sure that there were jobs that are available in the first place, so that they are actually allowed to be given to people who are citizens here.
Okay, thanks. From the United Party to Matthew from the NDP. You wanted to add something extra to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on something that Arpan said about more farmers making use of technology nowadays, right? And that is true. But if you've ever driven around up in the township, as I've been doing for the last few weeks, you'll notice that the internet connection and the cell service is extremely spotty, to say the least. Right? Which is why the NDP introduced a bill into the House of Commons back in 2017 to bring a high-speed broadband internet and cell phone service infrastructure across rural Canada. Unfortunately, that bill was voted down by both the Liberals, who were in a majority government at the time, and the Conservatives at the same time. So there's something to be said, again, about one thing being said to people to their faces and something else in the House of Commons.
Okay. We should also mention this is on Rogers tonight, too, so thank you very much for that. Akshay, what did you want to add?
I would like to attest to that fact because the only internet connection in Embro is $200 a month. The same internet connection in GTA would be $40 or $50. So we need to do something about it. And that's one of my points in my vision for Oxford community. Thank you.
Nicely put. Thank you for that. This question will be for Jacob. Will you support strong agricultural business risk management programs that will help farmers deal with challenges and losses caused by factors beyond their control, like severe weather or tariffs, for example?
Yeah, so we're in support of BRMs, like business risk managements. And we also, the ones that are available right now, agri-stability and agro-crop, we would also encourage people to use those programs and let us know. I would be really interested in talking to farmers that have used those programs, had to use those programs, and how well they worked for them.
Thank you, Jacob. Matthew?
Yes. And I also would be very interested to hear from farmers who have had to use those programs as well. The NDP would be investing in rural communities to support farmers who are affected by tariffs, as well as any other sectors that are affected by tariffs.
Okay. Arpan, how would the Conservatives handle dealing with business risk management?
Look, I think every farmer who has farmed knows that there's a significant risk when it comes to their jobs. Every morning they wake up, they dedicate so much time and energy, and it's true, they are facing the risk of the weather. It's hard to predict. Even this year already, it's not the weather that a lot of the farmers were hoping for in April. But we had brought some of these bills forward in Parliament, and I was proud to vote for it. It was a Conservative bill, Bill C-280, which offered protection to our vegetable and produce growers when it comes to bankruptcies by the suppliers. It would give them protection. So we have looked at various measures to offer them that stability that they need to keep on doing what they're doing. And also the agri-stability program, like was mentioned earlier, is a program that is set up to support our farmers during a time of need. I've heard from far too many farmers in our community that when they have that need, there is so much paperwork, there is so much red tape, there is so much regulations that it takes them away from what they do best, which is farming. So I think if we could find a way to streamline that process so they have that support when they need that support, because sometimes it could take months, sometimes it could take years, and by then they're already facing a massive financial crisis. So And obviously with tariffs, any of the tariffs that we put on to counter some of the tariffs, we'll put that money back into supporting our workers and our farmers.
Okay. Akshay, how would you handle this?
Repeat the question.
Yep, I sure can. Will you support strong agricultural business risk management programs that will help farmers deal with challenges and losses caused by factors beyond their control, like severe weather and tariffs?
Got it. So in my opinion, the government needs to get more new insurance products. There is also a way of hedging their risks through derivatives or futures. That is another option that the government needs to advertise more to the farmers, and the farmers need to do that too. And that is something that I would for sure advocate for in Ottawa.
Okay. And how would the United Party handle things, Melanie?
So when it comes to risk management, I think I've made it very clear. We are obviously aware of the stability that our agricultural sector gives to our economy. Of course, we're going to be protecting them in whatever measure that is necessary. As far as for the dollars and cents and what the exact official stance is, I can't tell you about our platform. I don't have that knowledge in front of me, but I could come back with that.
Well, honest answer. Appreciate that. David, the Liberals, how would they handle this?
Yeah, actually, the Liberals do have a plan to double the revenue protection for farmers under the Agri-Stability Program. They're suggesting that because of the costs of farming these days, $3 million to $6 million per farm, in the case of significant revenue drops or weather that is going to damage their crops, etc.
Okay. Appreciate that. Next question. We'll start with Matthew on this one for the NDP. What is your party's... oh, I'm sorry. I got Jacob. Yes, I did. Yes. There's so many up on stage. When I've done this in the past, we've usually had a few less. Matthew, let's start with you. How would the NDP... what is your party's stance on capital gains, especially eliminating the tax as long as the gain is reinvested into other businesses or industries in Canada and not limiting the reinvestment into something like a business?
So the NDP does support the capital gains tax, for better or for worse. But the fact is that when we talk about the federal gains tax, we're not talking about people who are reinvesting into Canadian businesses and stuff. We are talking about people who already have billions of dollars saved up and who already are extremely wealthy. We're not talking about reinvestments here. We're talking about people who are already billions of dollars in the green and can afford to pay their fair share of taxes. Unlike the Liberals and Conservatives, we do support the capital gains tax.
Okay. And from the Conservative standpoint, Arpan?
Look, this came up in Parliament as the Liberals prorogued and shut down Parliament. This was a discussion that we had. The Liberals tried to hike capital gains tax to 66.7% on our investments, and that not to Matthew's point, that wasn't for the wealthy. That was for our doctors. When we have a doctor shortage, that would affect our home builders. When we have a housing crisis, it would affect our farmers. When we have a food insecurity problem in our community, we voted against it. I stood up in Parliament and wanted to make sure that never passed. The Conservatives openly objected to that path. The Liberals wanted to hike it, so then they pushed it off to a later date. And now, part of our Conservative Canada First plan to help stimulate the economy, we have committed that when a profit is made on a business and within the first year you reinvest that back into Canadian assets, to a business, to expanding something, or to Canadian stocks, as long as the money stays in Canada and you're looking at growth, there'll be a 0% capital gains. So no capital tax on reinvestment done here in Canada. That's how we build a stronger community. That's how we attract investment. You want to build a strong counterpunch to the US, you create the environment to attract investment here. $500 billion of our money is being shipped right to the US because we're not competing on the tax system. This plan does just that.
Appreciate that. As an independent, Akshay, how would you handle this?
So I am against the capital gain tax, especially if the money is being reinvested in Canada itself. Because if you have done something and you have achieved something, you have built something, and you are being taxed on it, and then you want to get out of it, and you are reinvesting in Canada as well, So you shouldn't be stopped anyway because the money is staying in Canada. It's not going anywhere outside. It's your right to know. It's your right to do what you want to do with the money, because at the end, if the tax goes to the government, they get to decide what to do with it. But if the money is in Canada itself, I'm for sure in favor of that.
Okay. Melanie, how would the United Party handle this?
We need to allow our provinces to collect their own revenues without federal interference. And when it comes to capital gains, we want to see the end of that as well.
Okay, appreciate that. Arpen. Oh, I'm sorry, David.
Yeah, thank you. I believe that Mr. Carney has said that he is removing the capital gains tax, and that obviously has to be a protection for farmers. This is their only and biggest investment, and we need to make sure that they are able to move forward with that investment and continue their productivity. So that is what the Liberals were standing for.
Okay. I was looking at ARPA. Did you want to respond after we get through with Jacob? I want to get to Jacob first, though.
So the CHP isn't for capital gains tax. We actually are for a tax reformation. The CHP doesn't want to tax what you make. We want to switch it over to a tax on what you spend.
Okay. And Arpen, you wanted to respond.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Mr. Hilderly, with respect, when did Mark Carney say that?
When did your party say what?
When did your party say that there's no capital gains tax, that you stand against it?
I believe that statement was made by Mr. Carney at the time that he also removed the carbon tax.
Paused.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. Arpen,
Details.
We'll start with you on this next question, Arpen. With the threat of tariffs looming, what is your party's stance on increasing renewable energy, especially increasing biodiesel and ethanol production?
Look, I think it's important. Canada is a home to one of the most green, clean, ethical, natural resources. We are a strong nation with so much potential when it comes to energy. Unfortunately, Liberals bills like C-69, the No Pipelines Act, has caused a lot of our resources to stay underground, which has to change. So one of our policies that we have discussed for our Canada First plan is to repeal Bill C-69 to ensure that our energy, we build more refineries here in our country, that we could take those great natural resources that we've had. In countries like Japan and Europe have also asked for our natural resources. Sadly, the Liberal government has not made those deals happen. And so we have to break that reliance that we have of not only our country, but the world on dirty dictator oil that exists coming from Russia and Saudi Arabia. So I think Canada has huge potential when it comes to our renewable energy sources. I'll say it over and over again. We stand with our energy sector here in Canada, and we have to support them every step of the way. And under a Conservative government, we will speed up the permitting, the processing to get these plants built and to build a pipeline to get our green, clean oil to other markets, not only here in Canada, but across the world.
Okay. Akshay.
Could you repeat the question once?
Yeah, I sure can. With the threat of tariffs looming, what is your party's stance on increasing renewable energy, especially increasing biodiesel and ethanol production?
I would be in favor of that. I for sure attest to the fact that Canada has one of the most largest natural resources. If we do not use that, that's a shame. And I would be in favor of that.
Okay. And Melanie.
First of all, our electrical grid cannot be sustained without the use of natural gas plants. So this seems a little bit of a contradictory question. That being said, I would like to say that we would like to see ensure full provincial jurisdiction over natural resources, removing Ottawa's ability to interfere in provincial resource development. Section 92A of the Constitution Act in 1982 already grants provinces control over natural resources, but federal policies such as Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines Bill, have undermined this right. We will repeal Bill C-69. We will also end federal regulatory overreach that disproportionately affects resource-rich provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan, who are plentiful when it comes to the resources specifically concerning fuels.
Okay. And the Liberals, David, how would they handle something like this?
Oh, the good news is that Mr. Carney is making renewable energy and energy a high priority for us. He would like to make Canada the energy superpower. And because our farmers here are growing so much corn and soya, we would like to see more investment in both ethanol and biodiesel plants to make use of the excess that we have. We're not using in a food situation. Regarding the pipeline, Mr. Khanna, we are definitely making that a priority, and we are going to have a flow of oil from the west to the east is Mr. Carney's goal, and we would like to make sure that renewable energy is a high priority for us in terms of windmills, whatever the case might be, and renewable energy is clean energy. That is the focus of our new energy policy.
Okay, we'll get a response from the Conservative in just a moment, but Jacob, I wanted to see what CHP would do.
So we believe that anything renewable or non-renewable energy must be harvested or extracted in a responsible manner with a view to the future and into ensuring maximum lasting value for all Canadians.
Okay, thank you. Matthew, how would the NDP handle this?
First of all, the phrase green, clean oil is kind of an oxymoron, if you think about it. We do need to think not just in the moment that we find ourselves in right now, but we have to think about the future as well. Whether you like it or not, oil and gas will not always be there. So it makes sense for us to, while we are continuing to use oil and gas at the moment, for us to invest in renewable energies, solar, wind, geothermal, hydroelectric, etc., nuclear, and have a plan for the future.
Okay. Arpin, and then I'm going to come to Mel, okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on. Obviously, I think Mark Carney wakes up one day and he wants pipelines. The next day he goes to Quebec and says he doesn't want pipelines. His talking points change quite regularly based on the audience he is talking to. So as of today, we have not heard a commitment from him to build these pipelines, and which is wrong. And so our plan is very, very simple. It's very, very clear. We've said it. It's part of our policy platform. We voted against Bill C-69, and we'll make sure that pipelines get built in our country.
Okay, thank you. And Mel, you wanted to add something as well.
When it comes to our nation and our renewables, honestly, we are using hydroelectricity, which is one of the best ways of actually using renewable energy in the first place. And so when it comes to the actual conversation of renewable energy, I just want to ask all of you guys a question. Where do you think the money is going to when we're going from biodiesel or from any sort of carbon-based fuel over to green energy? Whose pockets are we lining?
Okay, we'll put it at that. Question number 5. We'll go to, from our independent. Akshay, what policies will you implement to encourage stable trading environments and access to diversified markets for the Canadian agriculture?
So as we discussed, firstly, we need to look within ourselves and to start trading within the provinces. That's an important concern. Once we are past that, once we have a surplus within Canada, then we can think of exporting it outside. In terms of policies, once we come across the interprovincial barrier, I would for sure be more open to exporting to other countries who are in need of our agricultural products, and I would be open to that.
Okay. United Party, how would they look at that? Melanie, do you want me to read that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. What policies will you implement to encourage stable trading environments and access to diversified markets for Canadian agriculture?
I do not have an official policy stance on that.
Okay. Honest answer. David, do the Liberals have any?
The Liberals have already started an initiative to develop more markets for our Canadian products, our Canadian agricultural products. As I mentioned earlier, they are looking very, very closely at the Indo-Pacific Rim to develop markets there. The key to that whole part, and to European partners perhaps as well, is it's a free trade, not a tariff situation. Very, very important to develop those markets for our farmers so that we are not paying penalties on the products that we produce.
Okay. Jacob?
I don't have anything from my party on that right now at this time either. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move over to Matthew, the NDP.
So, yeah, introducing payment protection programs for producers and growers who are affected by any trade disruptions, creating a pan-Canadian food strategy that will make Canadians leaders in food sustainability in the world.
Good enough. Yeah. Arpan, how would the Conservatives handle this?
Look, the world needs more Canada. I think we could all agree to that. I think we have so much good to give to the world when it comes to exporting our amazing resources, our great products. And so for us, we have to find ways to diversify trade. And sadly, in the last 10 years, we've lost our standing on the international stage. We have lost that respect with our traditional allies, whether it's our NATO allies for us not meeting our NATO defense spending targets, whether it's not working with our partners when it comes to tackling some of the larger issues. I think it's important to regain that trust and let the world know that Canada is back open for business. When it comes to trade relationships, I want to remind everyone that it was a Conservative government that actually started 4 of the major trade deals that we have today. And it's not about just free trade, it's about fair trade by having strong negotiations at the highest level to ensure we work with our local farmers, our different organizations to make sure they're part of the solution and part of the consultation as well. The worst thing I've heard about some of the trade negotiations is that the industries that they affect are not being consulted, that they're not at the table. That needs to change. If there is going to be something that's going to be negotiated that affects our farmers, they should be able to provide consultation, provide feedback, and have their say. That's what we'll do as a Conservative government.
Okay, appreciate that answer. Next question, Mel, we'll throw this to the United Party. Grocery retailers. Grocery retailers continue to have strong profits. Meantime, farmers are often pressured to provide products at lower costs, and feed is becoming more unaffordable for consumers. What will you do to support a fair and more balanced value chain from farm to fork?
I would say that part of that would be involved once again with the supply system that is in place. And that actually gives us a lot of the stability in the first place. But as far as for creating greater value to the farmer rather than to the retailer, I can't give you a specific answer on that.
Okay, no, fair enough, fair enough. Would the Liberals have anything that would accommodate anything like this?
If you go to the grocery store, you know what's going on. And for a similar product or the same product that you buy in one store and you buy it double the price in another store, we know that there are some issues with our grocery retailers. And I think it's very important for any government to hold them accountable for that excess pricing and gouging that perhaps is going on or seems to be going on for sure. One of the concerns would be because it's a commerce, why should they not be held accountable? I firmly believe that when I speak with my colleagues in Ottawa, that's something that I would like to have our party be more forceful with and move forward on.
Yeah. How would CHP handle this, Jacob?
Sorry, could you repeat the
Yeah, I
question?
sure can. Yeah. The grocery retailers continue to have really strong profits. Farmers are often pressured to provide products at lower costs. Feed is becoming more unaffordable for consumers. And what would you do to support a fair and more balanced value chain from farm to fork?
I don't have a specific answer for that at this time either.
Okay, not a problem. NDP, how would the NDP handle it, Matthew?
So look, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen clear evidence that some of the biggest grocery chains in the country have been engaging in price gouging activities. And that's just not
geared towards shoppers, but also towards producers as well. And I'm pleased to say that the NDP has been the party that has been leading the fight against price gouging, and we've actually introduced legislation into the House of Commons to combat that. Unfortunately, more often than not, our legislation is blocked by both the Liberals and Conservatives. So, no, it's fine. I'll shut up. Don't ruin what I got.
Look, food insecurity is a top issue that I hear about when I'm at the doors or if I'm talking to our constituents. 2 million Canadians are now relying on food banks. When I go to the food banks here in Oxford County, they're telling me that they're at capacity, and even the donations coming in are starting to dry up because the costs have gone through the roof. Our farmers are operating on a very, very minimal profit margin when it comes to their goods going to the market. When you tax the farmer who grows the food, you tax the trucker who ships the food, you tax the processor who sells the food, and you tax the retailer who sells the food at the end, who pays? The consumer. You're taxing the consumer. So I think things like the carbon tax have to go away to make sure that our food prices go down. It's not fair that in the US that their food price is 37% lower than Canada's. All the regulations and all the red tape that exists is punishing that. But also, if you remember, the Liberals had a massive food summit where they marched down all the top, the big wigs when it comes to the food industry and said, you will lower the food prices. Guess what happened after the summit? The food prices went up, right? So for us, it's important to look at the root causes. When we looked at the consultation and committee, they weren't even consulting our farmers when it comes to how to lower their cost, or the manufacturers or the processors. So they're missing a massive step when it comes to that. It's sad to see that in Canada, we have one out of 4 children now we're skipping meals, and that has to change. So I think it's about reducing the cost of our food, also to hold those that are gouging responsible. I think we can't ignore that. If there are some corporations that are having a monopoly and not, allowing other competition, that has to change. We have to look at local markets as well. Our farmers markets are great for that. We should start supporting local at wherever we can as well.
We're going to wrap that question up with and Matthew and then Mel, okay? Actually.
Okay, so my answer is pretty straightforward. We should remove the middleman. We should remove maybe the grocery retailer, and we should promote more community stores and farm markets. And the government needs to support that. The government needs to help us advertise those instead of helping the other big box grocery retailers. Also, the government should ease the rules on local selling. If a farm wants to sell his products directly, be it dairy, be it poultry, or anything else, it should be eased by the governments. There shouldn't be so much red tape and bureaucracy on selling something directly to the consumer.
Okay. Matthew, you had a follow-up comment, and then we'll go to Mel.
Well, just a follow-up comment. It's one thing to point out the fact that there is food insecurity in the country and that some kids are having to skip meals a day, but ARPAN is already on record as having voted against the National School Food Program. And it's not a matter of if there are corporations and grocery chains that are gouging Canadians. It's a fact that they are. We've had opportunities to address this issue, but the will to do so when actually in the House of Commons is lacking.
Okay. Mel, and then we'll go to ARPAN.
Look, we've talked about the carbon tax, but I'd like to say when it comes to what is coming off the land and what is being produced by farmers is the very beginning of the chain. And by the time it goes through the logistical chain, there's carbon tax on the gas, there's carbon tax on everything that you go through the entire process. And by the time you get to the grocer or the retailer, they're gouging maybe, but how much of that is actually because they are paying that much more because of the carbon tax? So I would like to go back and state once again that to me would be one of the first places that the federal government needs to look at.
Okay. ARPAN, you wanted to, and then we'll go to David.
No, for sure. I think my colleagues are obviously entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts. They can't be making things up sitting next to me. If you read the actual bill that brought forward, it was a report or a study to talk about food insecurity and for kids missing meals. We don't need more bureaucracy. That program that he's talking about, that report, guess how many meals it's provided so far? It's been 2 years. 0. Because it was a report to study food insecurity. We know we have a problem in our country. We don't need more Liberals telling us to study in some high offices in Ottawa. Let's get the meals on the ground, not more money for bureaucrats that the Liberal NDP have been seeing in the last 10 years. Thank you.
Okay. And David? The Liberals wanted to follow up on this?
So, Mr. Khanna, are you saying that you did not vote against the school lunch program?
Absolutely. It was never a bill in Parliament. It was a study. You may have the old talking points, sir.
How about the seniors guaranteed income supplements?
Never voted against that. Conservatives have kept it at age 65 and will protect that all the way to the end. It's on the record.
And Canada child care benefits?
Of course, we're going to keep it. We've made a commitment to that. We're going to maintain the $10 a day of childcare, and we're going to add flexibility for parents that don't want to send their kids to childcare. So parents have the flexibility to take care of their children and raise their kids with their own values, instead of the liberal knows right approach. Keep going, sir.
Well, here's one program that I really, really am angry at you for voting against, and that's the dental care one, because not everybody is able to deliver good dental care to their children. And in the case of my son in Toronto, who lost his wife 3 years ago, is on a single income, and this dental care program is absolutely excellent for him, and it's a lifesaver. I don't like the fact that you voted against that.
Well, I'm sorry to hear
right now.
I'm sorry to hear about your personal family situation. I do send my best to you on that. But look, a conservative government will protect our dental care, will protect pharmacare, will protect our $10 a day child care without any hesitations. We'll work with the programs to make them better, more streamlined, so more Canadians can have access to a basic level of support.
And we're at 8:36. I want to get a couple more questions in. David, we will start with you on this one. And then we'll go to Jacob for this question. David, how will your party improve the immigration process for skilled and schooled labor and get them to the right jobs quicker? How will the Liberals handle this?
I understand that immigration is incredibly important for those skill sets. And fortunately, I actually sit on the board of the Community Employment Services, and I know how important that is to getting skilled labor into the market and working in our economy. I do know that we're studying the immigration situation. We have cut back on immigration, but there is certainly a measure of other components involved in that, and that would be housing, and that would be education as well. So it is being studied. It will be worked on, and hopefully we will develop a good program for that.
Okay. Jacob, how will the CHP handle this?
I'm going to pass on this question.
Okay, by all means, we'll move to the NDP.
Well, it's identifying people who already have skilled trades who are applying for permanent residency or the immigration system. For example, if you have a doctor who studied in a different country, has all their credentials, has all their degrees and everything here, they're relegated to driving taxi, right? So we need to identify people who already have the trades and the qualifications coming in and make it more streamlined for them to be able to join the workforce once they come to this country.
Okay. Conservatives, how would they handle this, Arfin?
Look, for the first time, I could say that sadly the Liberals have broken the consensus on immigration. I'm a proud son of immigrants. I believe in lawful, legal, tested immigration to our country. That is the number one priority for Canadians. The Liberals have let in way too many folks coming to our country without proper vetting and looking at their background checks. I stood in Parliament and I asked the Minister of Immigration these direct questions to them. They stopped doing police clearance checks back in 2018 for temporary residents coming to our country, including international students. That has increased some of the challenges. We had to stop 2 ISIS terrorist attacks from some of these students that were coming into our country. That is not right. They've let in students to our system who is not their fault. I could tell you the students are just following the system. A system that has now allowed for them to come through these diploma mills for programs that we don't need in institutions that don't exist. And the government turns around and calls them the bad actors when it was their responsibility on immigration to do the proper vetting. Their Liberal officials ignored their own housing crisis concerns. They ignored officials' warning that their plan is going to cause a crisis for housing. They ignored vetting when it comes to these systems. A conservative government will get back to the basics, back to a system that works, a program that is connected to the number of houses we build, the doctors we have in our country, and the job employment in our country. We have to have a balanced approach when it comes to this. When it comes to labor shortages, We have a lot of doctors who are from immigrant backgrounds who have had a lot of great testing. We will introduce a Blue Seal program that gets our immigrant doctors working. Right now in Canada, there's 30,000 nurses and 20,000 doctors who are foreignly trained who should be tested based on their merit. If they could provide that service, we would love to have them work in our community to support the huge doctor shortage we have in Oxford County.
Okay. As an independent, Akshay, how would you handle this?
So I'm in favor of immigration, just that it should be controlled, and who we immigrate, we should vet them, especially linked to agriculture. There are a lot of talented people out there, not just workers, but who can actually give us benefit by actually analysis of the soil or any scientific research on agriculture. So there are people who are skilled in agriculture who we should maybe look at, who we should be looking at attracting to Canada. But in terms of immigration, it needs to be controlled and the proper people should be coming in.
Okay. And last but not least, Mel.
Uncontrolled immigration, lax border enforcement, and abuse of Canada's visa system have led to housing shortages, wage suppression, and pressure on our healthcare and education systems, which have resulted in real social and economic hardship for many Canadians. The United Party of Canada will end mass migration, deport illegal immigrants, implement a strict merit-based system, and require foreign students to be financially independent. Additionally, we will also end birthright citizenship for non-Canadian parents and shut down illegal border crossings like Roxham Road, ensuring that Canada's immigration policies serve Canada's citizens first.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll throw this to Jacob. How would the CHP handle this? What are some of the ways that you personally will champion in and beyond the next federal government that assures Canada's future, not just as a low-cost exporter of raw materials, but of manufacturing and transformation that makes our goods high in value and raises our standard of living?
I'm gonna have to pass on that question right now.
That's fine, not a problem. NDP, Matthew, how would the NDP handle this?
Look, I don't claim to have all the answers for what's going to happen in the future. All I can say is that, I'm here in our community year round, not just during an election campaign, as I said at the beginning. I support our local businesses, our local community groups, and we need to reevaluate, I think, our position on the world stage. What was can probably never be again. We need to reach out to our allies. That's important to remember. We still do have very good allies out there, and we need to reach out to them. We need to reinvigorate those relationships. We need to reinvest in those relationships, and we need to set a new tone for Canada going forward as not a rubber stamp for the U.S., but as our own country with our own policies and our own future.
Thanks. Arpan, how would you handle this for the Conservatives?
Look, I'm very proud of Oxford County when it comes to our economic potential. As I mentioned earlier, we have the best farmers, agritourism, the two massive auto sector plants here, thousands of spin-off jobs that come from that. We have the 401, the 403, a great logistical transportation hub in our community. We have the best people that roll up their sleeves and get things done. They don't complain, they're doers, and they want to keep on doing great things. Sadly, what we've seen in the last little bit is that the environment that's created for manufacturing is not there. When you're punishing our workers with 60% of their paycheck going towards taxes and clawbacks, that's a problem. When you're attacking our businesses, calling them tax cheats, and saying that they're asking for too much, that's a problem. When you're raising taxes every step of the way, adding 20,000 pieces of red tape, no one wants to invest in communities and countries like that. But I've locally been to many floors of our businesses. I spend a lot of time interacting at our farms, at our communities, businesses, whatever opportunity I have. I met with the local economic development teams. I've been raising these issues in Parliament in Ottawa every chance I get. If you see my speaking record or when I've rose in Parliament and raised these concerns, I'm sharing Oxford's successful stories, the potential that we have in our great community. Sometimes people say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And it's important that we keep demanding more. I don't want to be left behind to Kitchener or to London. I want to make sure that Oxford has its fair share of support and that we attract the brightest and the best right across from this country.
And Doc, how would you handle this, Akshay?
I will fight for Oxford. So I'll make something clear. Being independent doesn't mean being isolated. It means being flexible and collaborative at the same time. I'll work across party lines to get things done. I'm not tied to one political ideology. I'm tied to Oxford. And that gives me the freedom to support any policy that benefits our community, no matter where it comes from. I will listen to the people of Oxford, and I will listen to what they want, and I will represent that in Ottawa. Thank you.
Okay. Mel.
I'm not sure if I understood the question, but I believe that this is how I would like to answer. We keep talking about everything concerning the economy, but we're not dealing with some of the social issues. I believe that that's one area that does need to be addressed more. And I do believe that when the social fabric of our nation has been healed, I do believe that we see a far more stable economy, and we see happier people, and we see a country that people want to do trades with because they see a sovereign nation that they want to do business with.
The Liberals have a very clear plan to invest in Canada and to build in Canada. We would obviously, sorry, we understand the process of building good industrial bases in Canada. Starts with education. We need our colleges and our universities to be able to train and to teach our folks. Mr. Carney's vision is to look at what industries in the future are going to be sustainable and ones that are going to make Canada stand out on the map. It is certainly an investment in the future if you build the kind of businesses like clean energy that will move forward for our young people going into the future.
Thank you for that. We didn't have time to get to all the questions. If there is any question that they didn't get to, candidates will be sticking around, so I encourage you to ask some questions to them afterwards and also meet them as well too. We're going to do our closing statements, and we're going to go in the reverse order. So we'll start with the United Party of Canada. And Mel, would you give us your closing comments? We'll give you, each candidate will have 2 minutes for their closing statements.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming here, and I am delighted to see that there is a variety of people that are here. When I say variety, I mean different generations are obviously visible. And so that's a good sign that there are many who are invested in what's happening in this election. It took a lot of courage for some of you guys to ask the questions that you did, and some of the questions I'm sure you'll ask afterwards. But I do want to address this. When it comes to voting for the lesser of two evils, that's what I often hear people say. I want to ask you, at what point is it okay to vote the less of any evil? I also want to address the fact that when it comes to splitting the vote, there are 8 candidates. I don't know if the last candidate did show up, but I've had a lot of people ask me about splitting the vote. And I wanted to say this. If you look at the big three, there are an additional 5 above and beyond that. And I wanted to say that if the policies and platforms of the Conservative, Liberal, and NDP were satisfactory, why are there 5 more candidates that have something else to say? I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. It has been a privilege to be a voice for the silent majority. And I would like to say that it's unfortunate that the majority is silent, because in truth, I don't believe that you are silent. I believe that you have been silenced. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity to be a voice and to speak into some of the difficult and dark areas that we need to navigate through in this election.
Thank you for that. And just so we're on the record, we had reached out. 8 candidates were invited to be here, and these are the candidates that were able to make it for this evening. From the Independent, Akshay, what would you like to say?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. As someone who proudly calls Embro home and has spent years engaging with the community, not just as a neighbor, but as a volunteer, a professional, and now a candidate, I want to reaffirm my commitment to being your voice. Farming is the backbone of Oxford County, and the challenges you face are not abstract to me. From the erosion of supply management under trade pressures to the looming threat of farmland loss through unchecked development. These are not just policy concerns. They are about livelihoods, heritage, and the future of our rural Ontario. As an independent candidate, I am free from party lines and political maneuvering. That means I can truly represent our interests, whether it's fighting to remove carbon taxes on barn heating and grain drying, advocating for fair and practical environmental policies, or standing firm on preserving prime agricultural land. I believe in a balanced approach, protecting the land while enabling growth and prosperity for farm families and rural businesses. You need a representative who not only understands legislation, but also has experience to navigate it and the courage to speak up when it matters. With over a decade of experience in law, finance, and real estate, I have the tools to stand up for you in Ottawa and deliver results back home. Farming isn't just a sector, it's a way of life. And Oxford deserves someone who respects that, protects it, and builds on it. Thank you for your time and for everything you do to feed and fuel this country. I'm here to listen and to serve and to stand with you. Vote Vardhan on April 28th. Thank you so much.
The party, from the Conservative Party, Arpan. What have you got? You've got 2 minutes.
Well, it's been an honor of a lifetime to serve you as your member of parliament for the last 2 years. We've had many great success stories. I've been at your businesses. We've had great conversations. We've celebrated the big milestones. We've discussed the many challenges our community is facing. But I take pride in the fact that I have given it my best every single day. I am meeting with you. My cell phone is public. I truly believe that in public service, we are servant, not master, that we should be accessible at any time of the day to answer questions that you might have, to support you in a time of need. And I've tried my very best to do that in the last few years. On election day, you have a very, very clear choice to make. On one side, you have the past 10 years of the disastrous Liberal government and their record that has put 2 million Canadians to a food bank, that has taxed our work, that has punished our farmers, that has taken away our freedoms, that has increased crime right across this country, that have brought in drugs and disorder, chaos in our country, and has weakened our economic growth. Or you have a choice for change, a choice for real change, a conservative Canada First plan that will lower our taxes, not just for our seniors, for our workers, our auto sector, but also for our farmers. A plan that will secure our borders, bring back lawful immigration, support treatment when it comes to mental health and drugs and addiction, instead of giving more government state-funded drugs. A plan that will stand for our lawful gun owners and target the criminals that are running rampant on our streets. A plan that will put Canada first for a change. I hope I can earn your trust once again on election day. Please vote Conservative. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you, Arpan. And from the NDP, Matthew.
I once again would like to thank the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture for hosting this evening. And I'd also like to thank the fellow candidates up here, if you'll permit me to be a little bit immodest as the candidate up here who has the most elections under his belt, especially in this riding. I do recognize the great strain that being a candidate puts on not just us, but on our families as well. So we may disagree vehemently on policy. We may argue like alley cats, but on that most base of levels, they do have my respect and support for participating in our democratic process. I'm not coming to this election with a degree in law or political science. I'm not looking to cross something off my bucket list before I retire. I'm not running because I worked for my party or my party leader and now I'm angling for a promotion. I am a custodian. My job is to clean more messes than I create. So what I am bringing to this election is the lived experience of somebody who has had to make those difficult decisions, who has had to work
multiple jobs to make one income, who has had to put off medical work, doctor's appointments, and etc., in order to save money and to put more time into my other activities. So on April 28th, let's vote for a representative who will be on our side, who will put the needs of working people first, somebody who comes from that working class background. On April 28th, cast your vote for Matthew Chambers and the NDP. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matthew. Jacob from the CHP, you've got 2 minutes.
So I want to thank all you guys for coming out. This is a great community that we have here in Oxford. My understanding of a job of an MP is to represent the constituency and to make votes in the House of Commons based on the consultation of the constituency. So the CHP has a unique position to form a seat of opposition that we can hold both accountable and transparency to both all the other major parties within the House. I look forward to being more involved in the community. Fortunately, it goes without saying, I was a little underprepared tonight, but that isn't going to stop me. I'm still going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to get to know you guys, and I want to pick your brains on how you want to be represented and how you want to be stood for in the House of Commons with some of these issues we talked about tonight. The CHP is a party that is always going to maximize lives, families, and freedoms, and we will not compromise on that. We believe in not just bringing change to Canada, but bringing transformation to Canada. I just thank you guys again for coming out, and I have nothing but respect for my colleagues up here. It was an honor meeting you guys all, and I look forward to continuing to run against each other in this campaign. God bless.
Thank you, Jacob. And last but not least this evening, from the Liberals, David Hilderly.
First of all, again, thanks to the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture for hosting tonight and for the audience for your participation. Agriculture is a major cornerstone in our local economy in Oxford, and I am committed to protecting farmland and our natural environment through policy and plans that encourage urban density and intensification rather than urban sprawl. I'm here to support and commit to protecting our food supply. On April the 28th, I invite you to vote for David Hilderly. I am the candidate who values hard work, building relationships, and serving my community. I understand that Mr. Khanna was victorious in the last election, but his absence in the 2 years that he has been in Ottawa is fairly well described by our local citizens. I worry about the fact that I have not seen any clear evidence of commitment and work to people in Oxford County. And I just want to make sure that people understand that we work together in this county. That's how we get things done in this county. I support Prime Minister Carney's vision to stand up for Canada. Now it's time to stand up for Oxford. Thank you.
David, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, David, and thanks to all the candidates and how articulate, how passionate, great representatives you are for your parties. It's not easy when you're out campaigning in March and April in Canada and around this area, you don't know what you're going to be getting. Thank you. And I hope you learned something this evening, got your questions asked, and a safe drive home this evening. I'll turn things over. I think Davina had a few things to say.
Just quickly, I know everyone's getting hungry for the pie at the back. Just want to thank everyone for coming to tonight's Policy and Pie, hosted by the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture. A lot of our directors are around. If you want to talk to us, you're more than welcome to do that. I also want to give a special thank you to our moderator, Eddie Matthews. He did a great job moderating tonight's discussion. I also want to extend a big thanks to Rogers TV for broadcasting it, Hard FM, they are here, and Armor Pro for setting up all the microphones and the speakers, and they will be posting the debate tonight to our social media page. So if you know somebody who missed it and wanted to check it out, please tell them it will be there. And thanks again for coming out tonight. Have a safe ride home.